So I made my first video on the Streakfly almost 2 years ago, and since then people have been asking, is this going to be similar to the Peg Turbo? Is it going to be better than the Vaporfly? Just what is this shoe built for? Well, after a couple of runs in it, I'm ready to give you my first impressions and tell you how it compares to those two shoes. First, let's go ahead and talk about the specs. This shoe has a stack height of 32mm in the heel, 26 in the forefoot with a 6mm heel-to-toe drop. It is lightweight at 6 ounces, and I put this in the up-tempo trainer category. So I got my usual size 12 as well as half size down, so an 11.5, and I tried it on both, and I thought that the 11.5 fit just a tad too tight. I thought the length of the size 12 was spot on. However, just to note that in the Vaporfly Next Percent 2, I am a 12.5, so this is half a size down from that, but in most other shoes, this is my true to size. I had no heel slip. I thought that the padding did a good job back there. And as far as the fit of the upper itself, I found some weird bunching going on, but I had that in both the 11.5 and the 12, so I think it has to do more with just how the asymmetrical lacing is set up there. Speaking of the upper, let's go ahead into the shoe overview. So the upper is very open and minimal mesh. It has offset lacing with very thin laces, a comfortable tongue that is even more padded than the Vaporfly Next Percent 2, and a comfortable U-shaped heel pad. The midsole foam is 100% ZoomX. It seems to be slightly different than the ZoomX in the Alphafly and Vaporfly, but underfoot it isn't noticeably different. I think it may be a generic TPE foam instead of the branded Pegasus, but anyways, inside there's also a midfoot Pegasus shank to help add some support and torsional stability. The outsole has full forefoot coverage with 2 patches in the heel, and the forefoot rubber is very similar to what you find on the Alphafly. So on my first run in these shoes, I did an unintentional progression run where I kind of started around moderate pace and then ended up doing marathon pace. This was mainly just because I was so excited to try out the shoe and kind of wanted to see what ranges it could handle. When I was going the moderate pace, it was really nice and soft and bouncy. However, when I was going more towards race pace, the forefoot was nice and responsive and firmed up a little bit. So I didn't really think that the midfoot shank contributed anything as far as adding extra pop to the shoe. However, I felt that it did add a little bit of stiffness under that forefoot, give it a little extra support, and help prevent it from bottoming out. So I'll talk more about it here shortly, but I think that this shoe is a mix of the Peg Turbo and the Vaporfly. Alright, so we might as well get into the comparisons. First off, I'll be comparing the Streakfly to the Peg Turbo. So like many, the Peg Turbo is one of my all-time favorite shoes just because of how bouncy that cushion is and how versatile of a shoe it is. And the Streakfly honestly reminds me a lot of that. It somehow seems more cushioned yet firmer at the same time. I'm not sure if that's just because my Peg Turbo has 500 miles on it and it's pretty worn down, but when I put one shoe on each foot, I noticed that there was just more underfoot from the Streakfly, but also a little firmer, a little more responsive. So overall, I think both of these shoes can be considered trainer/racers. I think that the Peg Turbo leans a little bit more on that trainer side, while the Streakfly leans a little bit more towards the racer side. However, I think if you have a Peg Turbo shaped hole in your heart, the Streakfly could help fill that hole. However, if you want it fully filled, you should probably wait for the Peg Turbo nature. So the other shoe that the Streakfly really reminded me of is the Vaporfly 4% and 4% Flyknit. However, there were 2 main differences I noticed between them, and that is the rocker and the carbon fiber plate. When I did a run with both of these shoes on, I did really notice that extreme rocker under the forefoot of the Vaporfly that kind of threw you on your toes, and then that carbon plate just gave you an extra pop during toe off, and I was kind of missing some of that with the Streakfly since it didn't have that forward rocker or that plate. However, since the forefoot does feel lower to the ground, it's lower stack, it does feel nice and responsive, so it's still a very speedy shoe. It just doesn't give you that firmness and rocker that I'm used to in most of those super shoes nowadays. So I think that the ZoomX Streakfly is a refreshing shoe in an age where the midsoles are getting thicker and thicker. But is this the fastest 5K, 10K racer out there? With my limited experience so far, I can't answer that question, but I think that this shoe is going to be more of an up-tempo trainer that you can do some track workout with, do some speedier marathon sessions, but I don't know, we'll have to see. I'm going to put a bunch more miles on it, do more workouts, more races, and I'll be able to give you my final thoughts in my full review. Until then, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my comparisons with the Streakfly to a bunch of other shoes. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on running.